Well, I am back on a beautiful Friday morning, and yet there are mosquitoes. Just reading a few verses from Matthew 7 through 14 so far is where I'm basically getting through. And beautiful sun. You can see the rays of the sun, I believe, on the video because they're coming through. They're showing in the image viewer. Previously, in the previous video, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. Saying God is going to do good things to you if you look, if you seek, if you knock, with relation to God. So, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give what is good to those who ask Him? So if you're asking, seeking, and knocking from your Father in heaven, you'll get good. Now, it says, in everything, therefore, treat people the same way you want them to treat you. And a little bit down in verse 15, it's talking about, how people, false prophets come to you in sheep's clothing. It's saying, that God is good, therefore you be good. But then there are people, and that you will know them by their behavior. False prophets come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves, verse 15. So, God does good to me, even though there are a lot of mosquitoes. Beautiful sunshine, beautiful day, and a wet area out here, and but God gives good to me, even though you may have to deal with mosquitoes. I look at the hard things in life, and I really, really do see good in hard things in life. It's like exercise. You say it's worth it, and that's the same thing with Christ. It's worth it, and that's why you go through it, because going through it makes you stronger, just like exercise. So it says, enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide. It says in some translation it'll change the word order a little bit, because in Greek the word order is different than English anyway, generally. For the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. For the gate is small and the way is okay. So enter through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide and broad and it leads to destruction, and many go through it. It's saying it is a popular way. So most people go that way. If half the you can disagree with this. If half the population in the world is Christian, then half the population in the world is lying. That's the way I look at it anyway. Where the gate is small. Okay. So, enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and broad and leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. Doesn't matter, what kind of little fish sign you have on your car. Most people enter through the wide gate, and the reason he says that is for again, which is because, is the same word, because the gate is wide, blah, blah, blah. For the gate, or because the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life. Because it's broad, because of that, the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. We expect politicians to lie to us, I hope. and I've said this before, and I don't want to make anybody angry. I tried to, and as a sign, you can notice that I tried to avoid discussions with the people who are from other faiths, unless they're interested in me. I don't try to engage them in a oppositional way, because I feel like that doesn't really get where I want to get. It doesn't really get nowhere. People have decided that Christianity just is wrong, or Christianity doesn't make sense, or whatever. I don't want to force them. But when you look at the pastors and the politicians and the religious leaders and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes and the lawyers and the hypocrites, you see problems with people, and therefore, and too, as well, when you look at the scientists, and science is great, and religion is great, and politics is great, but the way people deal with it is not great. If you want to be like your Father in heaven, then you have to be different. And as I've discussed in a previous video, people will not like you for it. Love demands compassion, and compassion demands a choice. That you, just like a child, you give the child what it needs. You give the child many times what it asks for, as long as it's good for it. As long as it's a good time to give it, and good for it, you give it to them. And you give them choices, and you let them make their own choices, because that is good. So we, too, must decide to make our own choices. And whether we're going to be like the world or like God. The loving thing to do is to give people choices, because people don't like it when they're not given choices. That's part of being human. That's part of human life. It makes us godlike, which is scriptural, where it says, Jesus said to the Pharisees, he said, I have said you are gods. That is in the Bible. It doesn't refer to idolatry or anything, but it's saying people are powerful, people have an exalted status. So it is up to us to decide whether we're going to be like the children of the world and choose the broad path. But do we seek, as in the previous video, do we seek, do we knock? Are we given? Do we find, and is it open to us, or is it not? Do you want to better your life or worsen your life? Do you want to follow God? Do you want to obey the prophets? Jesus said, I didn't come to destroy what the prophets said, but that you are held accountable to obeying what God has said. All right. Have a good morning, evening, night, whatever. And I'm not going to bring these mosquitoes in with me.